Hills. It is so good to see you. Thank you. Thank you. He's just trying to make up because he was actually really cruel at one of our Chiefs games that we invited him over to. So he's trying to be nice to me. So, that was last night. We did not invite Mo over for that one. No, that was a good win. If you are a guest of ours today, welcome. Even if you're not, welcome. We're so glad that you're here. If you are a guest of ours, would you do us a huge favor? You have two choices. Well, actually, you have three. You could do none. One is you can fill out the guest sheet in the seat in front of you. There's a little card for guests, for visitors. If you'd fill that out and see us at that back table, we will have a gift for you. The other option is you can fill it out back there as we meet you. So we just really want to get to know you and know how we can serve you and pray for you. So if the people that are taking the offering would come up, that would be great. Just have a couple of announcements for you. The other day, someone asked me, what do you do for fun? And as I scrolled through my day, waking up at 4:30 and working out and going to school and then coming home and thinking about money and what's for dinner, and then the next day, I was like, what do I do for fun? And I am so glad that Rolling Hills is giving us the opportunity to have some fun, some time to actually not have any other motivations other than connecting with each other, our spouse, but also just to laugh and have fun. There is a marriage date night on February 17th that is geared for connection and fun. Let's take a little break from our daily grind and have a little fun and have time to laugh. If you are interested in that, there's a QR code in the bulletin. You can register for that. My last announcement is next week after church, there is a new Friends Connect time, breakfast or lunch. If you have not registered for that, but you're interested in hearing a little bit more about the church, about the leaders, about what's going on, please register for that. Again, the QR code for all of this is in the bulletin. That is all I have for today.
Hey there, church. Good morning. Happy Sunday. All I can say is that today is evidence of that we were all too poor to go away on Martin Luther King weekend, right? The 3-day weekend. All the rest of us just didn't have enough money to go away, and so I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here to continue. Actually, we started something brand new last Sunday. We are studying because we just walked out of the book of Exodus this last fall. We ended it at the end of the year, and we started a brand new series. Actually, it's unpacked from that book. It's like a mini-series within the series. And it's a series in the 10 Commandments. And so I wanted to read to you what we began with this last week with the actual first commandment that God gave to Moses and Israel. And we share it with you and why we're going to find out that this was not just something just for Israel. It wasn't just for the righteous people. This is true for everybody. These 10 commandments are so much more, and they come alive, especially in the complex world that we live in. Think of everything you've seen on the news over the last 24 hours, or the last month, or the last year, or the last decade. The complexity of the world that we live in, how much clarity would it be if people were observing these truths, these practices, you'll see as we go, in the 10 Commandments. So if you have a Bible, you can open it up on your lap. Otherwise, you're welcome to turn here. You can see up on the screen, I'm going to read to you what we read last week, and I open it up as a way of introduction here to you today. It's in Exodus chapter 20, verse 1. God gave the people all these instructions, and for your sake, today I share with you, it's the Devar. It is the words. Instructions probably makes it sound like it's something that's on a label, but it's the Devar, the words. It says this, here's the word that God gave. I am the Lord your God who rescued you from the land of Egypt, the place of your slavery. I am the Lord your God, I am the one who rescued you. As we learned from Moses and from Israel, the first who received the 10 Commandments in the first place, right? This declaration that was from God. Actually, what they knew, because they got it first, was that this was actually the first, for what our purposes today, we'll talk about it as the very first commandment. I am the Lord your God. I'm the one who rescued you. I pulled you out of slavery. This is the one that Moses and Israel knew to be the very first command. God is our rescuer. It's the good news, actually, smack dab right there at the beginning of the 10 Commandments. But somebody might say, well, hold on a second. Wait a minute. Wait. They might jog their memory. Wait. No. That's not the first commandment, John. It's, thou shalt have no other gods before me. That's the first commandment. Doesn't Moses know that? Doesn't the Bible know that? Don't you know that? It's the first commandment is thou shalt have no other gods before me. But we Christians only assume that is the first commandment. You know, guys, I feel like there's a little bit of feedback. Can somebody arrange for a mic? Because I don't want this to be a distraction to everybody. Is this a distraction, everybody? Hearing it's a handheld or whatever it might be. Maybe I'll get this one here. Sorry about this, guys. Sometimes. Check. There we go. Rather that not be a distraction, you guys. I preach better when there's no fuzz. You probably listen better too. What ends up happening is the reason that why we people who probably grew up in Christianity, maybe you heard it in your Sunday school class if you were a little kid and you went to church, we're like, well, no, that's the first commandment. But you know why that is? It's because the Catholic Church in the 400 AD reordered the 10 Commandments from the ones that the prophets and the priests and our forebears actually knew it. They reordered the commandments, even though the rabbis and all of Judaism's leaders had been maintaining its original order for at least by that point almost 2,000 years. And so we're like, we have somebody long before us reordered them, even though that's not what it was given 2,000 years before it got reordered. But it's probably an easy mistake to make. Why? Well, for this one simple reason, to say something like we see in verse 2 as a command, I am the Lord your God who rescued you, doesn't sound much like a command at all, does it? What does a command sound like? Do this, don't do that. Thou shalt not. This is what a command sounds like, and so this doesn't sound to us like a command. But what we find out as well is that these 10 commandments isn't the actual term that God put in Moses or gave to Moses originally. That's not the term that he wanted it described with. It is called the 10 Commandments today popularly, but even though it's not really what God had told Moses to call them, it's actually the 10 Devar. This is what we learned last week. I'm trying to give a little bit of a recap. The 10 Devar is the 10 words, the 10 sayings. This is what God said, and it's important. It would have, if it would have been the 10 Commandments, he would have used another word that is used all over, especially in the Hebrew of the Old Testament. He would have called them the 10 mitzvot, the 10 commandments, but that's not the word he used. He used the word devar, the words, the sayings, and that's where this whole thing was headed. So the principle in this first command, this first devar, it was actually this: you must believe you need rescuing, and I, the Lord your God, am the only one who did it and can do it. This is the principle of the first command as we see it. Well, a book later in the Torah, the book of Leviticus, it talks again about what being rescued by God. As we make our way from here, from last week, into where we're going to jump into today, what happens in Leviticus? God says something more about people who are rescued. What happens in their life? What does their life look like in response? Well, here's what it says in Leviticus 11:45. For I, the Lord, am the one who brought you up from the land of Egypt. Again, it's a restatement of that. I'm the one who delivered you. I'm the one who rescued you. Why? That I might be your God. I wanted to make you mine, and I wanted to be your God. And then 2, therefore, you must be holy, because I'm holy, God says. I want to be your God, and I want you to be holy because I'm holy, which is a perfect expression of God's character, holy, along with being a perfect expression for his intent with the 10 devar, with the 10 words. I want to be your God. We're going to see this really reinforced in a moment. I want to be your God, and I want to make you holy. I need you to be holy. I want you to be holy because I am holy. You must be holy, which sounds a whole lot more like a commandment like we think of it, right? And that's how it's used there. Well, how do we start becoming holy? Today, as a part of the church experience, I had them pass out papers and pens with everybody, and on your lap I said, write down a list of the things that you're supposed to do to become holy today. Like, what could you do? How do you obey this idea? How do we become holy? Well, it's a great question. Well, here, I think we have to start with being rescued. We can't be holy on our own. We had to be rescued. We have to be rescued. We need grace. We need mercy. We need forgiveness. But rescued people are people who are responsive to. They are reoriented to. They are worshipful of their rescuer, which brings us back to the 10 Devar. And here's where we're going to pick up Devar, or sayings, or words numbers 2 and 3. And here's where we pick up in verse 3 of Exodus 20. It says, "You must not have any other God but me. You must not have any other God but me. You must not make for yourself an idol of any kind, or an image of anything in the heavens or on the earth or in the sea. You must not bow down to them or worship them. For I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God who will not tolerate your affection for any other gods. I lay the sins of the parents." So there is a breaking of this. And in fact, if there's a breaking of this word, there is a breaking of the generations. Something happens in us and in our children and our children's children that comes along with it. He says, "I lay the sins of the parents. I'll not tolerate your affection for any other gods. I lay the sins of the parents upon their children. The entire family is affected, even children in the third and fourth generations of those who reject me. But I lavish unfailing love for 1,000 generations on those who love me and obey my commands. You must not misuse the name of the Lord your God. The Lord will not let you go unpunished, in fact, if you misuse his name." So there's a lot there, a whole lot there in commands numbers 2 and 3. But let's begin with its essence, and that's this. Holiness starts with inner closeness. It starts with an inner closeness with God and towards God. Now, as you can plainly hear here in especially in commandment number 2, the baseline of that command is this. It's a prohibition against any form of polytheism, as well as, which is the worship of more than one God. Monotheism, mono, one, theism, God, only one God. Polytheism, many gods. And it is a clear prohibition against that. There's only one God. I'm the Lord your God who rescued you. I am the one God. You're going to worship me. This, as well as we saw a prohibition against idolatry of any form. And so you must not have any God but me. This is how it gets stated for us. But what does this mean? How does it mean to have more than one God? Frankly, how could anyone ever have one? How could you possess a God? If you could have one, if you could own one, you would be one, right? How could we have a God? Intriguingly, for simplicity's sake, translators changed it so that we could hear it quite like just in that way to maybe make it simpler. And I'm going to make it more complex to make it simpler for about 1 minute. And so you got to hang with me to get to that place. What does it actually say? You see, in Hebrew, it's not have. It's not a Hebrew form of have. It's something else. It's this. It means to be. This is the word. To be is what the verb form is there. Now, this is not to criticize translators. They have a very difficult job, which is to take and communicate really multifaceted truths from the ancient language of Hebrew and then put it into simple English terms. But this is a really important one, and so it's not to have something, it's to be. And in this way, it's like is or was or is becoming. This is the idea of that verb form. We learned that since the first grade, right? This is the actual word that's there. So a less simple translation, but a more accurate translation would be this. No other God can be a God to you but me. So it's a little more complicated than the original one. You can have no other God but me, but that's not what he said. He said this, no other God can be a God to you except for me. Well, is that different? Well, yeah. Let's reread the original one and explain it a little bit, because there could be some wild-haired possibilities all the way if you just took it at face value. Here's what it says. You must not have any other God. You must not have any other God. You must not have any other God. So it could be confusing if you listen to it. Is it suggesting that there are other gods to have? Is there another God besides Yahweh that I just don't know about yet, right? What are the implications of other gods being out there? And are there risks involved with me possibly having one or ignoring one? What does that look like? Are there other gods that are out there besides Yahweh? Well, this big question gets cleared up when you see it as it was actually written, and that is there's a form to be, and who that to be is towards. I'm not supposed to allow anything other than Yahweh to rise to the first level in my estimation, in the worship of my heart, in my imagination, in my priorities. Nothing else can be a God to me. Nothing else can be a God to you. What does that mean? It means we can create gods right here that don't even exist in reality. Do you see the difference? It's different than having a God. We couldn't possess one. There is no such thing as another God. There's only one. And so to have something that we have formed in our own heart as a God for us. We can all make a God, number one, to us, even if there's no other God that could really exist. Hearts are where gods get created. And this is what the heart of that second commandment is. It's a heart thing. A heart is where gods get started, because they don't actually exist. God is not worried. Maybe I'll try to make it simple. God is not worried about the existence of other gods, just our creation of them in our hearts. Because here's the kicker. And not only creation of them in our hearts, but what our hands do with what happens inside of our hearts. He's worried about that. He's concerned about that. He is commanding about that. And here's the kicker. The reason why that is because what starts in our hearts, it always flows out to our hands. If it really is there, it's going to turn into something. And the kicker of that is that 99 times out of 100, whatever I make up in my heart, I am definitely going to eventually try and actualize in my real physical life, which is why the second half of the second commandment means so much. It is trying to speak to something that's very real for us, because sometimes we probably don't feel all that much at risk. We don't really fret as much. Americans, especially people who go to church like us in America, we probably think we have nothing to fret about the second half of commandment number 2, which is making, carving, forming any idols that we bow down to. If we think of it just straightforwardly as that, creating a physical idol or a statuette to the sun or to the moon or to, the mountains. I doubt if many people here this week, or even many people around us as neighbors, probably formed a statuette like this. But wouldn't any time I let or I caused something in the known world, something in the known world, in the physical world, stand in the place between me and God, right? Wouldn't it be the same thing as breaking that command? If something in the physical world becomes of higher value or distracting value to me, that God becomes blurred, put back, takes a second place, that's the breaking of the second command. It doesn't have to just be in a statuette form. When I esteem anything that is physical more than I esteem the one who is eternal, that is the breaking of the first part of the command and the second part of that same command. It's to this, to focus on the things of the physical world over its creator. That's where idolatry is sown. And why it's such a big thing to God. I mean, if you're even been a small student of the Old Testament, if you've had some time to read through the Bible, you read how he responds to idolatry. And many times we probably read it and we think that God just got this strange fascination with knocking down the idols, like the statuettes and the things that people bow down to. And it includes that. It's a prohibition against that, but it's not like it's something that died out with those kind of religions. It is something very, very possible that we might transgress again. It's much, much easier, and it is much more common than we probably realize. And that is why God is jealously guarding against anything in the physical world outside of our soul to enter into or to shape the world of our inner soul. Because the things that we are worshiping are the things that we are becoming. The things that we are worshiping are things of our own creation. They are our fascination. Think of it that way. There is no other God besides God. There is no other God besides God. That's just a fact of the physical universe as well as the metaphysical universe. There is no God but one. Only one could create everything. And so this is a fact. What does it mean? It means that we're the ones coming up with our gods. Every religion that's come before us, they're the ones that came up with their gods. It was in their imaginations. It was in their heart. It was in their wishes. And guess what it oftentimes looks like? It looks like their space. We worship that mountain because they love that mountain. They live next to it. We worship the moon because it lights things up. We worship this, that, or the other. It looks a lot like the person. We are becoming what we are worshiping. And this is why Paul, in the New Testament, in the book of Romans, speaks to this very thing as well. He says this in Romans chapter 1, "For since the world was created, people have seen the earth and sky through everything that God made. They can clearly see his invisible qualities, his eternal power. They can see his divine nature, so that they have no excuse for not knowing God." Yes, they know God. They knew God, but they didn't worship him. They did not worship him as God, or even give him thanks, and they began to think up foolish ideas of what God was like. Here's that thing that happens. There's a foolishness that rises up when we begin to think we can make God like something that we understand, that we know, that we want to be like. They began to think up foolish ideas of what God was like. As a result, their minds became dark and confused. Verse 23 says, "And instead of worshiping the glorious, ever-living God, they worshipped idols, made to look like mere people and birds and animals and reptiles." Verse 25 finishes the thought this way. He says, "They worshipped and served the things God created instead of the Creator himself, who is worthy of eternal praise." They start to form they try to make God into the thing that they know, that they want. We are becoming what we are focusing on. If it is any wonder why, when people speak of barbarians, it is any wonder why they might act like animals if they worship them. Is it any wonder why people who probably populate the richest parts of Wall Street, why do they act a lot like money is everything? That's the God that they know. That's the God that they worship. That's the God that gives them power, right? Is it any wonder that we act like the things that we are worshiping, we are becoming the things that we are worshiping? Ralph Waldo Emerson spoke about this, and I don't usually quote Emerson for my theology, but he has something I think is on point, and I would like to read it to you today. He says, "The gods that we worship write their names on our faces," which is a sermon all its own. He says, "Be sure of that. And a man will worship something, have no doubt about that either. He may think that his tribute is paid in secret in the dark recesses of his heart, but it will come out. That which dominates will determine his life and his character. Therefore, it behooves us to be careful what we worship. For what we are worshiping, we are becoming." That is well said. This is why the Proverbs, back in the Old Testament, why Solomon writes this down. He says, "Above all else, guard your heart. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it." Again, what's happening in our heart will turn out to become physical. It'll become an action that we go about. And this is, again, back to the Ten Commandments. This is exactly what's going on. Who our God is what we end up doing. And all this activity in obeying commandment number 2, it all starts as a thing of the heart. You all are today that walked in, you're wonderful people. You're smart people. You came to church, and you're especially smart because you came to Rolling Hills. So you're already hyper-intelligent people. And I bet people with depth, right? But you know what we all walked in as? No matter who's the finest dressed, who came in the finest car, or the least. We're all just souls. Actually, I shouldn't say it just. We're all souls. That's what will leave this place the day we see God. And that's why this commandment about loving God and not making any other gods is so critical, because this is our life. Who our God is all of our life, which means, but it happens all invisibly, right? This thing about love, a thing of the heart, it all happens invisibly as truly as anything else that happens physically. You put on those clothes, and so it's obvious to everyone who's sitting around you, those are the clothes that you might be wearing today. But just as true as that, as we can see, is what's going on inside of our hearts invisibly, which means that whether it's carving or making or bowing to or prioritizing any physical idols is what happens in the physical world because of what's already been going on in the inner world. Yeah, I hope you see that. Which might just reveal to us something very truthful. You might not just find out truth today from Scripture, you actually might find this powerful truth that's standing right in front of us today. Are you ready? This could be a very revealing thing about you to yourself and me to myself. If we opened our hearts or our lives to introspection and to investigation and to interpretation, I wonder if we could measure who or what our God is and has been, to some degree at least, by the life that we've built. Just think about that for a moment. Because it's not, you don't have to just think about the idea if you put it into your own thoughts about your own life and the things that you are, the things that you do. We might be able to discover who our God is and who he has been based on the life that we've built, how we spend our time, how we spend our talents, how we spend our attentions, how we spend our resources. It'll all have some physical marker, won't it? Like at some point, what happens in the heart, in the invisible parts of the heart, always makes its way out to the hands, into our actions. It'll have a physical marker. And so in that way, we can look at our own life and say, here are the things that matter most to me, and that has been informed by the thing that I think is most true. We might just be able to tell who our God is by what we have made our life so far. And that could be powerful and inspiring, or it could be like cause reflection, right? Who is my God, and what am I doing about that? Because our life is a signature of the influence of our God. Simple. Which leads us full circle as we end back to the third commandment now. We read it at the beginning, and I end with it here today. It says in verse 7 of Exodus 20, you must not misuse the name of the Lord your God. The Lord will not let you go unpunished, in fact, if you misuse his name. The words we use, friends, brothers and sisters, the words that we use lay bare our belief about the God that we believe is most true in this world. It'll come out without even us thinking about it, because we'll blurt it out in a moment of anger. We'll blurt it out in a moment of certainty. The God we believe in and what we believe is true about this world is the thing that we will not only believe in our heart, it'll turn into the things that we buy, it'll turn into the things that we do, the priorities that we take onto our life, but it'll also come out in the way that we speak, right? Now, this third command, this is the way most men will interpret this. At its baseline. Some translations will use it this way, you shall not take the name of the Lord in vain, right? The translations are the same, but most men will take this to mean, I got to cuss less, right? I got to stop saying, God, and then filling the rest of the blank, using the curse words all packed around it, right? I got to stop doing that as much, right? I got to do it less. When I when I hit my thumb with the hammer, when my team blows it on the field, I got to stop cursing God's name, and then I'll be in alignment with this. And yes, that's a baseline prohibition about that. We ought not be using God's name in flippant ways, and certainly in cursing kinds of ways. To speak of him and his ways, though, in unholy ways, in unhumble ways, unthoughtful ways, or irreverent ways, is the sin in it. And so here's what we see what Jesus said about this. The mouth speaks what the heart is full of. We say what's actually going on. And oftentimes it just happens when pressure comes, or speed comes, or just a reflex. We curse, friends, and I know this is more common in the world we live in, probably is common in Christian lives, church-going lives, as it is in the world around us. We can't turn on a show anymore, can you? You cannot turn on a show and not hear every possible curse word, right? Vile things, disgusting things, but things that not just they say, but things that even we will say. And we think it's just because we're, guys, I'm talking to you right now, we just think that we're being manly. But Jesus didn't have to say any of those words to be manly. Maybe think of it that way. There are other words, or maybe sometimes just silence. But the mouth speaks what the heart is full of, and so this is what God is after. If our heart, the invisible part of our life, is filled with the living God, we speak things of him and around us that are beautiful, that are wonderful, that are true, that are life-changing, that are bold, that are courageous, right? These are the things that are true. The mouth speaks what the heart is full of. Now, as we kind of finish this up, we've summarized 2 whole commandments on one Sunday. There's no way we can get to that. One, I want to point you to the daily readings that we have. We have set them aside. So if you go to our website, if you go to rollhill.org, you can see there's a link there, 10 commandments. Click on that link, and there's daily readings that unpack this more and more. But here, just kind of summarize this. These particular commands are just like the majority of the other commandments, aren't they? They are prohibitions against. Most of the Devar, the 10 commandments, they're in a framework. What is the framework? Thou shalt not, right? Thou shalt not have other gods. Thou shalt not make other gods or bow down to them. Thou shalt not misuse the name of God. But what is that in the positive? How do we do that? Not just not do that. And I believe to tell you that very much is the direction of the 10 commandments. God is not just interested in you not having other gods. He is very interested in him being our God. So these are clearly the direction. How do we live these commanding truths? And in 30 seconds, I'm going to lay down some things that I hope that you might consider. And then I'm going to pray. One, I would encourage you to pay close attention to your heart this week. Over the course of the next 7 days, just tune in to your heart, especially when things are going fast, when things are under pressure, when things maybe are dim, are hard. Pay close attention to your heart and how you're thinking about God over that time. Is worship, is gratitude a natural and a frequent occurrence during those 7 days in your inner world? 2, in the next 7 days, place humble focus on what you are spending your time and your focus and your attentions and maybe even your money and your priorities upon. What's getting physical because of your inner world? What is actualizing? What is actually happening because of what's happening right here in your heart? 3, listen to your words. What are you saying out loud this week? And when you talk to your kids, you talk to your spouse, you talk to your coworkers, you talk to, I'll be coaching later this afternoon. I'm getting to jump in with a football team. I'm going to be speaking to young boys who are 10 years old and their families and the other team and the ref, right? We have to pay attention to what we're saying out loud. And then lastly, if it is not a part of your normal life rhythm, I would encourage over the next 7 days to think about this, to not just not bow down to idols, but consider actually making a part of each day's spiritual rhythm to get on your knees, to fall to your knees and speak in prayer and in thought and meditation and in heart to the God who is your creator, who wants to bring real things and wonderful things and amazing things into your physical world because he loves you. He made you. He brought you into the physical world. He brought me into the physical world. There are other things that he wants to bring about too. And just to simply fall to our knees, to bow to the actual God, not just the idols that we can make up in our life. Now I'm going to ask if you'd bow your heads for a moment, and it's a moment of pause. This is an invitation to whoever would like to do this. Steve is just going to play quietly. And it would really be best if we left church with our hearts right, with our hearts aligned with God. In the next few moments, he's just going to play. And you have an invitation. You can do this, of course, in the inner world of your heart. Some of you might choose to say, I need to do this all the way. You just want to come up and get on your knees. No one's going to come to you. No one's going to rattle your cage. No one's going to ask and question why. But if you need to get on your knees and you just want to come up here, you are invited. And in a few moments after we've had some quiet, I'll finish this in prayer. By standing as we get ready to leave this place, but we want to all pause together and lift a prayer to the Creator God, our Savior, our friend, the one who is jealous for our heart, for our actions, for our family, the things that we are doing and the people we're influencing. Would you stand? We're going to pray to him. Heavenly Father, Lord our God, not only do we not want to misuse your name or misspeak it, or be light or flippant, but we want to give you glory. You deserve it. You rescued us. You saved us. Lord, not only do we want to have the things that we are bringing about with our hands and our actions reflect the true God and the one and only God today, I pray that you would, Lord, move closer and closer into our hearts, that we would make you the one and only God again today because you rescued us. We pray. I pray you bless our church, our families, Lord, every action, every thought over the course of the next 7 days before you bring us back here. I pray that you would bless our church and each family who's been here today. We pray in Jesus' name. And all of God's people said, amen. If we get a chance to put that to practice, we'll see you next week. Love you.